Hey everyone, and welcome to the Global Azure 2020. First, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing this event virtually due to the COVID-19. I am Charot Amine, and I am a cloud DevOps engineer and a Microsoft Azure MVP. And in this session, I'll talk about the automation of the Azure Private Link using Terraform and GitHub Actions. So please, let's have some fun.
So as I told you, let's have some fun. The plan for this session will be as following. First, we'll talk about what the private link is. Then we'll talk about the private link for the app services. Finally, we'll end with a demo about the deployment of the Azure Private Link using Terraform in GitHub Actions. Security has become an essential element in IT. Customers ask for more security day after day. And one of the biggest security topics in the public cloud, especially Azure, is accessing its services. Before we could not access the Azure pass using a private IP address. Here, where the Azure private link comes in the game, it shows up. Actually, the private link is a new service that provides to some Azure services a private IP address, so the customers may access privately and independently from the internet using the private express route or a VPN. Also, you will handle the access to these services, and here a question comes in mind. What is the difference between the service endpoint and the private link? After all, we are just handing the access to the services, right? But actually, the service endpoint is like a firewall. You just decide which subnet will have access to this service. You don't provide a private IP address and you don't allow a private connection between your on premise and the services. So let's talk about all this through an example. Here is a schema that I took from the Microsoft documentations. Let's assume that a client wants to create his own SQL server and wants to access to it or reach it without any access from the internet or any access to the internet. So in other words, he wants to create an SQL server here. The client wants to access to this SQL server from his internal network, passing through the express route or private express route or VPN. Not passing through the internet. So before the client has to create an SQL server in a managed instance plan, which will provide a private IP address to the SQL server, which may be reachable from the internal network. So of course the express route or the VPN. Oh. Now, using the private endpoint or the private link, what we can do? We can create our own SQL server. Then, inside the VNet, of course, we may deploy a private endpoint right here, which will provide a private IP address to the SQL server. This solution will open too much or close too much doors or too much cases in security field. In other words, the client may have access from his internal network. So he may access through the express route or the VPN. He may deploy a virtual machine inside the same subnet as the private endpoint. So the virtual machine may have access to the SQL server through the private endpoint. He may also deploy another VNet in the same tenant, the subnet of course, and deploy a virtual machine here, and using the parent, the virtual machine may have access to the SQL server through the private endpoint. He may also, inside another tenant, let's call it tenant B and tenant A. Sorry, I drew too bad. So the tenant B may have another VNet, another subnet, and he may deploy a VM here, and using the VNet to VNet connection, using the virtual gateway of course, this VM may access to the SQL server through the private endpoint. The customer may access to the SQL server from his on-premise network. He may access to the SQL server from a virtual machine which is deployed in the same subnet as the private endpoint, or another VNet using the peering. The virtual machine inside it may access to the SQL server through the private endpoint using the peering, or using the VNet to VNet connection. He may virtual machine which is deployed inside another VNet inside another tenant may access to the SQL server in a different tenant using the private endpoint. Let's talk about the all new functionality, which is a private link for the app service. You can get benefit of what we talked before for the app service too. Connecting the private link to the app service will provide a private IP address to the application in the SCM. Another question comes in mind. What is the future of the app service environment then? Well, note that the private link is one address per app service, but the app service environment is like a tenant system where you can put too many app services behind the same IP address. Note also that the private link handles only the access. It is a very important thing to know because you can also connect a private endpoint thinking that you give a full protection to the app service. It is not true because tomorrow I can deploy an application inside the app service through the private link, which is a cool thing, alright. But this application will be able to communicate with the internet because we don't protect the outbound traffic. A solution to this is to put a virtual network integration and combining it with the Azure private link, you will benefit of the security of the inbound traffic and the outbound one. And here some limitations comes in the game. Until now, we can't put a network security group on the Azure private link. Also, we need the premium SKU of the app service so we can connect it to the private endpoint. The demo then will be about deploying an app service, a private endpoint which will be connected to it. And of course, we need to test that what we deploy is working. So we'll add a virtual machine so we can test the access to the app service privately. All this will be done using Terraform and GitHub Actions. First, we need a repo. Here I've created one called Global Azure 2020. And then we need the Terraform templates that I've got right here. So I got four models, the app service one where I'm going to create the app service plan, and the app service, of course, the app service plan, we got a premium SKU so I can connect the private endpoint to it. Then I need the private link. The private endpoint is right here, and I need, of course, a subnet where I'm going to create right here. I'm going to show you. Then I need the sub-resource names, put sits. So I can, where sits is the sub-resource name of the app service. So when I'm going to create the private endpoint, it will be connected to the resource ID, which is here, which is the resource of the app service, which is the resource ID of the app service. Then I need a virtual network. with a subnet called Endpoint. And here, in order to connect the private endpoint to it, you have to enforce the private link endpoint network policies to true. Otherwise, you won't be able to create the private endpoint inside this subnet. Then I need a virtual machine so I can test the app service. Here I need a key vault where I store the password, the VM password, so I can connect using the RDP. Then I need the network security group where I'm going to allow the 3389 ports to connect to the virtual machine. Then the network interface with a public IP so I can RDP to this machine. Then I need the machine itself. It's a Windows Server 1. And of course, the password I get it from the data source key vault secret. So now for the workspace, I need a Terraform right here. I'm going to store the TF state inside a storage account. And there is a question, where is the key of the storage account? How Terraform will get connected to the storage account? Don't worry, I'm going to show you that. Then I need the provider 2.0, the new provider. And I need the subscription ID, the client ID, secret, and the tenant ID, of course, to get connected to the Azure, so I can deploy my resources. I need a resource group, and here I'm going to use my model app service, so I can deploy the app service, of course. Then I'm going to deploy the virtual network, and then the private link. In the private link, as you can see, it has as attributes subnet ID, which we can get from the virtual network one right here, and the resource ID, which we can get from the model of the app service. In the outputs of this ones, we got the app service ID and the app service plan ID. And in the virtual network, we got the subnet ID, of course. All right. And yeah, for the virtual machine, of course, we need the key vault name so I can get the password, and I need the resource group of the key vault because it's deployed inside another key vault, another resource group. And I guess that's all. All right, now let's get back and talk about the secrets. Well, here we got client secret, all right? And how can I get the subscription ID, the client secret, or the tenant ID? I'm going to use the reverse right here, where I put the subscription ID, client ID, and the tenant ID. And the question here is, where is the client secret? All right, the client secret, I will not put it right here because the security guy is going to tell me, wait a second, you are showing up a secret, and we don't like this. Well, the idea is to store the secrets inside GitHub. Uh, Here in secrets, add new secret, and here we need a client secret, and of course I got it. Oh, oh no, it's the storage one, and fast add secret. And of course, I need the storage one, which is here. I got it. I got it. Now I have my secrets right here. As you can read, the secrets are environment variables that are encrypted. So anyone with collaborator can access to this repository can use these secrets in a workflow. So we can use these secrets in a workflow. Well, now the question is, how can we use these secrets inside our Terraform templates? Of course, yes. Here we have actions. First, we have to create our workflow inside GitHub Actions. So set up this workflow. I just want to rename it as manual. Cool. So we need to get or to write a YAML file that will be able to take our Terraform templates inside the GitHub and push or do the three commands init, plan, and apply command. So I already got it. It's right here. Oh, I'm going to explain step by step. So first, the name is the CI. Here I say when I push the master branch or when I do a pull request, please run these jobs. And these jobs are build, well, we can name it anything else. Then I got some steps, and this build or this job will be run on Ubuntu latest version, US. So the steps, the first one, I'm going to check out the Terraform templates. The checkout means that I'm going to get my templates inside the machine. Then I'm going to run the init command. And here I have args with two arguments. The first one is var, where I set the client secret. Of course, I get the client secret from the secrets of GitHub. And then the backend config, so I can write the access key of the storage account. The same thing for the plan. And for the plan, we just say the client secret, and for the apply as well. So here we will run the init, the plan, and the apply. Note that when I start the start commit, it will start a new workflow. And since I got no Terraform templates, it will fail. Well, and now since I have the workflow, I have to push the Terraform templates. Well, here I'm going to get init, I guess. Yes, git remote and origin. This one, I guess. Up. Cool. Git pull so I can get the workflow. Oh yeah, origin master. Already up to date. I'm going to check that everything is alright. Yes. Okay, I got it. Then I'm going to get add. Oh, get add dot get commit my message, which is add Terraform template. And of course, I'm going to push origin master. All right. Cool. Everything was pushed, and now I got my Terraform and my models, and if I check the actions, I should get my build one, which is running. Where is the init was green? Here we are in the plan one. Everything is alright. Oh, so I guess I have some, yes, 11 resources to add. And now we wait for the apply. Waiting. So we can go to the portal. Here I got my app service. I guess now that the endpoint is not deployed, I can have access to it. Slash hosting some, and we wait for the endpoint. Let's wait. And the job is completed. All right, great. So if I check my resources right now, I got the private endpoint, I got the app service, and I got my virtual machine. Cool. So now if I try to access to the app service, I don't have access anymore. Even if I put the hosting start page, I don't have access anymore. So how can I test the private endpoint? How can I access to this app service? As I told you before, we have a lot of solutions, and if you want to access from your on-premise network, you have to do the resolution inside your internal network. But here, I deployed a virtual machine inside the same subnet as the private endpoint, so I can connect to the so I can access to the virtual machine, so I can test my app service, and this is what we will do right now. Sounds cool. Okay, now let's connect to the virtual machine here, and we disconnect. All right, RDP. Connection. And the password, I guess, is this one. I don't remember my passwords. Yes. Cool. It's getting connected. Cool. Now I have to change the host file so I can do the resolution of the app service URL. Yes, it's on the C. Which one? Windows. System. Oh, come on. Drivers. Here. I'll change it. Notepad. Okay, so I have to add the virtual machine right before I'm going to test this. And I should not have access because I'll pass through the public IP address. Come on. Okay. Okay. For OTP. Great. So now I have to add this URL with the 10005. Okay, cool. So 10005. Great. Save it. I guess I have to close the page and reopen it. Here we must have access to the application. All right, great. Oh, close. Okay. Cool. And here is my page, and I used my private endpoint to access to it. Thank you. I hope it was helpful. And if you have a question, please contact me on my email or one of my social media. Thank you. Ciao.